Hello, I'm Kyle. This is Give Pause Hobby, the channel where I stop to appreciate the things and activities I love to fill my free time with. I just realized I'm wearing a flower here. It is Hawaiian Day for our Summer Pops program at school, so you're welcome for the flare. This morning I'm recording an interesting little addendum to the ROOTbot teaching videos. This is me setting up the original 4 ROOTbots and then playing the first turn with each of them. I've had some questions about showing setup protocol. Also, I think it's just helpful to show more examples of play with these guys. So I'm going to go over to the table. I'm going to show how that process works, and then we'll go through each of them in turn to hopefully make it a little bit more clear how to as seamlessly implement these bots into your game, because that's the whole point. So with that, I'm going to not blather anymore here, and let's move over to the table. And welcome to the table. So as I mentioned before, I have a pretty upstart setup here for recording. So I don't, as of yet at least, have a multi-camera setup. So I'm going to be using my phone to take pictures of boards I need to, but there are the player boards. I've set them up randomly. I think we're going to start over there, the Vagabot, and work our way around when we're playing, but they're just the 4 of them set up over here. But I'll keep this camera set up right here on the map and talk through what I'm doing on the board and show you static pictures. To talk a little bit about the board, nothing should be super surprising. It's the autumn map. I do have the resin markers, just in case someone is interested but hasn't seen it before. I just used paint, Citadel paint for 40K stuff, or Kill Team, or Work Right Now, just to give them a little bit of a pop, to show the icons. It's also nice because it matches like the icons you see there on the actual card. So that's what I've done. Aside from that, it's the normal setup. I still, any question you might have about, do I need to check to see what the numbers are? Yes, every time. Aside from knowing that 1, 2, 3, and 4 are always at the outside, I don't know any of the setups for the numbers. I have to use the law of ROOTbotics every time I set it up. So there you go. If you are frustrated with yourself having to do that, don't be, because me too. All right, so on to the setup itself. Now, setup for the bots right up here is pretty simple. It just says follow the standard setup or the variant setup, so C3. And a couple important things of note: that you can still include the bots in the ad set, advanced setup aid, and then the third step, setup bots, is optional. Now if you look through the rules of ad set, I think that's in the what do you call these? Appendices. So when you get to the bots, as a group you may choose to play with the bots as described in the law of ROOTbotics. So the bots do not actually use the ad set setup cards. They will always use the setup as prescribed in the law of ROOTbotics. Kind of important, though, like I said, you can use them with ad set. You're just always going to set them up in this way. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to set them up and I'm going to play 1 turn of each of the bots. Remember, we're starting with the Vagabot. However, we will always set up in the order in which they appear in the rulebook. So in this case, Mechanical Marquise, Electric Eyrie, Automated Alliance, Vagabot will be set up in that order. So one last thing, remember, no matter what the play order is, we're going to be doing Vagabot, Automated Alliance, Electric Eyrie, Mechanical Marquise. Just turns out that is in reverse order. I did not intend that. The setup order is always going to be the order in which they appear in the rulebooks. So Mechanical Marquise, Electric Eyrie, Automated Alliance, Vagabot. The opposite of how we're playing them. And I lied. The players that I play with, they regularly call me out on this, and they say if I ever say the last rule, that usually means it is there's one more after that. And it's true. So in setup with the bots, in addition to placing the priority markers, that's kind of important, assigning the factions, blah, 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 we're going to choose difficulty and traits. So for each of the factions, I've chosen a trait here. And for the mechanical Marquise, because I usually need to help them out a little bit, I've given them the challenging difficulty as well. So I'm just going to put these cards by the boards, and then as I set them up, I will talk about where they're going to be placed. And then obviously last but not least, when choosing a faction, Vagabot isn't clear enough. You actually need to choose one of them, and we're just going to be the thief. Okay, now we're ready to start. So mechanical Marquise 2.0. So we are going to, where am I going to dump these out? Right here on the board, just to be absurd about it. So first of all, any of the lumber tokens can be removed, or will be removed. It's not a can, because the ROOTbot is not going to use them. So I just put them back in the baggie. We'll see if I missed any in there. Boop. The first thing you're going to do with the mechanical Marquise is going to gather your warriors. So I'm going to use a little bit of camera magic here. Zoop. Now, I gather them, critical for my setup is making everything as easy as possible. So I'm going to choose where I'm going to put warriors based on how often I'm going to use them. Not going to lie, I usually have factions like Electric Eyrie close by, so I can manipulate their decree a little bit easier. And you know, the line of warriors is going to go right on top of hospitals. I'm going to put hospitals down by where I put the warriors, because remember, hospitals essentially gives them a version of field hospitals, which, just like the regular Marquise, I have a high percentage chance of messing up. And yeah, I have a really tough time remembering that it's actually a thing. I have an even tougher time remembering it when it's with the ROOTbots. So I want to put that as close to where I'm putting the warriors as possible to hopefully not forget about it. Okay, so we've gathered our warriors. Now we're going to place our keep. Unlike the human player, there's not a brain to decide this, so I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, and it's a 2. So 0, 1, 2, I already forgot where it's going to go, is down here in the bottom right corner. Then we're going to place our garrison. Now remember, we are not using, I should probably do these. So I'm going to jump down to step 5. I'm going to take care of the building track, again, using some video magic. Woo! All right, so we have our starting buildings here. We're gonna need those in a second. Let's have our victory point track. I know it says this should happen like before the player board even starts, but no big deal. You put it out there whenever you can. You're all starting at 0. There's no value about who's putting it down first. So garrison. Remember, we are not, even if you're using ad set for the other players, you're not using advanced setup for the cats. And also remember, it is special and distinct from the player Marquise because you get 2 cats in the clearing with the keep token. So there is 1 in every clearing except the clearing opposite the keep, and then 1 extra cat in the clearing with the keep. And there we go. Our board populated with a bunch of cats. Got 2 back here by the keep. Then we have our starting buildings. So you have 1 of each type. And what I usually do on this is I cast the bones and I sort of look at what this shape looks like. Remember, it is you're looking at the starting clearing and any clearings that are connected to them. So in this case, I'm kind of looking at a triangle here. So I guess I'll do sawmill, recruiting, and workshop. Whoops. Don't look what was under that ruin. Now, you can't have multiple buildings in the same clearing, even if there are available slots to do so, at least for the starting buildings. Later on, no problem. And also, in terms of what building type it is, there's no issue with that, except the scoring tracks are going to matter. So it's not like this is going to be making lumber, because we already talked about that, or making, you're going to be recruiting cats everywhere regardless of the recruiting station. So it is purely just trying to differentiate the different building types for the different scoring tracks. That's it. And then fill up the building tracks, which we already did. In which case, the last step, challenging. So whenever you recruit, you're also going to be placing 2 warriors in the ordered clearing you rule of highest priority. You know what? I think I'm going to put that right down here next to field hospitals, because I'm going to be reaching over here for the warriors. If there are ever so many cats over here, they are threatening these cards. I guess I'll make a different row, and that has happened before with Mechanical Marquise, hence the adding the challenging thing here, just to give them a little bit more of a fighting chance. And that is their setup. All right, that takes us to Electric Eyrie. So again, just because I'm fancy, I'm going to dump all the pieces out on the map. We don't need to put anything back in the bag, so I can throw it up there with the cats. So gather all warriors, video magic, go. All right, so usually I have them below or above the board, but this just seemed right to have them staring at the scoring track, especially the upper point of the track, because spoiler alert, Electric Eyrie is pretty strong. Step 0, put the scoring marker on the track, so that's taken care of. Step 2, going to place roost and starting warriors. So in a random corner that is not the starting corner of another bot, and if possible diagonally opposite from a starting corner clearing. So since we're setting up second here, whoop, we're going over here to the opposite corner, and we're going to place 6 warriors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, into that corner. Oh my goodness. All right, then you're going to, step 3, tuck your viziers. So your loyal viziers, if you're playing on normal mode, you're going to put both of them underneath the bird column of the decree. If you're playing on easy mode, you only do 1. If you're playing on challenging or nightmare, you do 3. So you do those 2 and then a random bird card from the deck. And then last step, you're going to fill your roost track. Whoops. First one's on the board. Last but not least, swoop. At the end of daylight, place 2 warriors in the clearing of highest priority with no Eyrie pieces. Now, pro tip, of all the factions, if you're going to do just like traits across the board, the one I might leave off is the Electric Eyrie. It's pretty strong. Not all the time. Sometimes they get shut down, but more often than not, they do pretty well. Stop peeking out, sword under the ruins. So swoop at the end of daylight, I'm going to place it right here over evening. So if I, evening only has 1 step, it's just score the victory points. But every time I get to evening, I'm going to have to come across this card. So hopefully I will never forget it. And that's the setup for the Electric Eyrie. All right, Automated Alliance, splashdown. As with the other 2, we are going to do some video magic to gather the warriors. All right, our toasts are in place. Nicely tucked in at the top of the board. And next up, step 0, we're going to place our victory point tracker, boop, down on 0. Then we're going to place our bases. So find your 3 buildings, put them over onto your board. And last but not least, we're going to fill our sympathy track. So video magic, I'll be right back once I take all of these fists. All right, so that is taken care of. Oh my gosh, sword, stop, you. Should be no surprise. when you're done with setup for Automated Alliance, there's no presence on the board because that's how the Alliance works. Now last step, Steadfast. Now this one came with Clockwork 2. Each of these original 4 came with another trait. So Steadfast skips Public Pity if Surprise Revolt will happen this turn. You take only one of these actions each turn, but you ignore Martial Law, which is pretty amazing. So you never have to deduct a victory point from placing Sympathy, no matter how many people are there. So much like with the Decree, where I put Swoop over the Evening, I'm going to put this over Public Pity, or rather probably underneath the rules of Public Pity, just to remind myself of that trait anytime that it would happen. And that is Automated Alliance, which means I only have one left. Now, this one is kind of the pain. I don't know about your Vagabot storage solutions, fancy BGG baggies or other. Uh-oh, looks like I have, oh no, why did I put, I put all of the relationship markers from my other Vagabot, darn it. And this will teach me to play with 2 Vagabots in one game. So these, if you have 1 or 2 sets, like I do right now, they can go right back into your bag. Also, if you have the fancy, set of all the different meeples, you can choose the one that looks the most like your chosen Vagabot and place him off to the side, and all the rest can go back into the bag. So I will be right back. All right, so the good news was, whoops, it wasn't all of the faction icons I had duplicated in here. It was only the 4 that I had in the game that I was playing with. So no biggie, that'll get fixed. Step 0, put the scoring marker over here, just like always. All right, so when you are setting up, again, we chose our character. Oh, I guess you technically choose your character now. That's weird. I feel like you should do them when you choose your faction, but whatever. So choose your character, and then you're going to take the pawn, and you're going to place this into the forest adjacent to the most number of clearings. If there are multiple such forests, decide randomly. Now, if you're like me, you will forget this rule more often than not, and that is the normal river, like here in the autumn map, does not split these forests. That is it's right there. It's in the main map. I'm sure many people don't forget it. I, however, do, or I did for a long time. The Raging River on the back of this map does split up clearings, but for right now, this is always going to be where your Vagabot starts because it's the only forest that has 5 clearings. There are numerous others that have 4, but this is the only one with 5. We've already placed the quest deck nearby the board, and we're going to give the bot 1 quest. It only ever has 1 quest at a time to be working on. So there it is. It has Escort in a mouse clearing. Next up, Populate Ruins. We actually did that, we did that when we set up the board because we knew we were going to be playing with the Vagabot. Remember, you always need the ruins, but you only need to populate them if the Vagabot or the Lord of the Hundreds or Vagabond are in the game. So, but again, I knew what I was doing here, so I just did it beforehand. And last but not least, starting items. So Vagabot does not care about what the items are. So let's see what we got here. We got 3 boots and a crossbow. Interesting. I guess 1 boot for the tail, and then a crossbow. So all the rest of these can go back in the bag with the relationship markers because we won't be using them. The only time that ever gets changed is if you're using the Tinker version of the Vagabot and they only have 3 starting items. But there we go. That is the setup for, oh, I lied, Marksman. So the trait, start a battle as an attacker, deal an immediate hit. This one's a tricky one, and I think I'm actually just going to place it down sort of at the bottom of the board, just because location-wise to me, that's going to be close So hopefully I won't forget about it that way. All right, so that is set up for all 4 of the factions. So with that, I am going to go through the first turns of each faction and just show you how that works. So with that, Vagabot is up first. We draw, oh my goodness, a 4th boot. I guess it is, it looks like a robot raccoon. So all 4 paws have boots now. So as with almost every bot, you're going to reveal an order card, craft it if available for 1 victory point, no matter what the card actually says. So this one does say 1, but it could say 1, 2, or 3. It'd be no problem. All right, so after crafting, we are going to slip. If we have 2 or fewer undamaged items, move to a random adjacent forest, and then go to evening. We don't. We have 5 undamaged items, 4 boots and 1 crossbow, so we are just fine. So daylight, it is a rabbit card here, so we're going to battle, repair, and special. For battle, we're going to move the clearing with any pieces of the enemy with the most victory points. So there's obviously a tie. We have the most victory points, and then the rest are tied at 0. So if there's ever a tie on player, you go in setup order. So cats are it. Now, cats are surrounding the 5 clearings. The reason why we started here, there are cats in all of them. If there's multiple clearings at equal distance, move to the clearing where they have the most buildings. There is 1, and then fewest warriors. So every time you move, you're going to have to exhaust an item. So if we had to move here to like there or something, well, you wouldn't need to do that. But if it was like here to there, it would be 2 items just to move, and then you're going to exhaust 1 item to battle. So, oh, hold on. Marksman, I almost stopped, or almost messed it up. So at the beginning of battle, as attacker, deal an immediate hit, ba-boom, scoring a point if you remove an enemy warrior, which we did. So now we don't even actually need to roll the dice, but we will just to be fancy, because we get a bonus hit because it's an undefended building. We send that back, and we get another victory point. So that was a couple of items well spent for that battle. Repair, we don't have any damaged items, so we don't need to repair anything. And then special, take a random card from the enemy in your clearing with the most pieces there, then with the most points there, then the most pieces. So specials are kind of interesting because they typically, or lots of times, they'll be just in the clearing where you're at, which means like now, you might get to a place where there's really nothing else you could do. Now we have 3 available items, but since battle, we only repeat battle if they are in this clearing. We kind of keep the fight as long as there are more pieces to be fought here, but there aren't. We don't need to repair, and our special doesn't work because there's no one in our clearing. So we get to the end of daylight, we only use 2 of our 5 items. So we can refresh up to 6 items. Unfortunately, we only have to refresh 2, but we're at 3 victory points, so I guess that's pretty good. And since we're not in a forest, we will technically repair 1 item, but we don't need to because everything is fully repaired, and that is the Vagabot's turn. So next up is Automated Alliance. Red, our Fox order card. It is a craftable, but it is a persistent effect. It's not an item, so remember, bots don't care about those. So we will just move on. Revolt, remove all enemy pieces, blah, 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 blah. There are no sympathetic clearings, so you're just going to skip over Revolt because you can't revolt somewhere if people don't know who you are. Now, Steadfast was covering up Public Pity. If Surprise Revolt will happen this turn, it won't, because Surprise Revolt is if there's a bird card for your order. So I'm going to move Steadfast down. If we didn't revolt, we're going to spread Sympathy twice if we have 4 or fewer sympathetic clearings, which we do. All right, so spread Sympathy. This is one of the few times we're actually going to use the no such clearing rules, because there are no sympathetic clearings to place adjacent to this. Hello, it's me, Kyle, not from the future, but not as far in the past as the other Kyle in this video. Bad news, I goofed. Well, I goofed twice in the turn that you're about to see, the portion of the turn you're about to see. One is, I'm not going to lie, a rule that I'm still getting used to because I was reading it the wrong way for a while. And the other was just innocent. I was in the middle of talking about something and I forgot to go back and do the last thing. So the big one first, the no such clearing rule. I just made a video about this not that long ago. But like I said, this is a rule that I had been playing with wrongly for a while. So no such clearing just talks about if you have no sympathy on the board to play adjacent to. So typically the beginning of the game. And in my video that I'm linking up here somewhere, so the no such clearing rule says, instead place sympathy in a clearing with the fewest number of enemy pieces. Again, to me, the instead just like removes everything that came before, but we don't want to remove the ordered part of the instruction. So what you're about to see is me looking at my first sympathy of the whole game. There is a broad tie for one piece in a clearing. So when there's a tie like that, you go to priority, and I go to the upper right corner, which is not a fox clearing, which is the order of the suit of the turn. So instead, what I should have done was only look at the fox clearings. So we had clearing 1, we had clearing 6, 8, and 12 are the 4 fox clearings. Clearing 1 is obviously out, it's highest priority, but there's a bunch of pieces there. And then in 6, 8, and 12, there's just one piece each, which means clearing 6, the one on the east side of the map, would be the winner. Now, the other mistake I made was that because I have 4 or fewer sympathy on the board, on the map, I would, in public pity, spread twice and then do a third spread sympathy when we get to daylight. I was explaining something in here about how spread sympathy works, and I did the 2 for public pity and then never did the third one. So let me walk you through, I'm showing you pictures right now of the end state. I did wind up having a sympathy in clearing 6, but it was not in the correct order, so I want to just be honest with you. Teaching is a lot about learning as well, and like I said, I'm still working at fully grokking. I grok it, but fully remembering the no such clearing rule, but also I'm someone who has a lot of tangents, and part of this, my struggle in lots of things, is remembering what I was doing before those tangents, which I did not do in this turn. So the first one would have been to clearing 6, like we talked about. That would be the first sympathy we put down. 0 victory points for that. Then we're going to go to, again, we go to an ordered clearing that is it has to be adjacent, and then we first choose something that is an ordered clearing with the fewest enemy warriors. So at that point, so we would have 6 already laid down. We have 3 adjacent clearings, but one of them is removed because there's the keep in clearing 3, so we can't. Neither of them are ordered, in which case we look to see which one has fewer warriors, and then that would be an easy one because clearing 11 has 0 warriors. It just has the Vagabond, which is not a warrior piece. So clearing 11 has 0, clearing 2 has 1. So second sympathy will be placed in clearing 11, 1 victory point. And then for spread sympathy in daylight, remember, we check for adjacency. We have only clearing 12 and 3, which again, 3 is removed because of the keep. And 12 just so happens to also be an ordered clearing, so that would have won anyways. So we put our third sympathy down in clearing 12. So we went 6, 11, 12, and we would have scored a grand total of 2 victory points there. So, because of that second mistake I made, I only wound up giving the Alliance 1 victory point for sympathy, but they would have had another for a third. So sorry for the mistake, and learn from my mistakes so you don't make them. All right, back to the video. Back to you further in the past, Kyle. Next up, Surprise Revolt. We won't do that because it's not a bird card. Then Organize. We won't do that because we don't have bases. Recruit. We also won't do that because we won't have bases. And Discard. So we will do that. And that is the end of the Automated Alliance turn. At the beginning of the game, their turns are pretty quick. Just like with the regular Alliance. Sometimes they're pretty speedy if you don't have much else to do. All right. Electric Eyrie. Mouse. And mouse in sack. So we're going to take that and we're going to give them 1 victory point. And it's an orange card, orange mouse card. So we're going to add it to the mouse column of the decree. And with that, we're going to move on to Daylight. So we are going to resolve the decree, recruit for each column with at least 1 card left to right, then move in that way, then battle in that way. So again, this is a change from what it was before, whereas before you did all these actions for each column. You did recruit, move, battle, recruit, move, battle, recruit, and it kind of made sense because it was by color, but at least to me, it was frustrating because you had to go back and forth between all the different aspects of the rules for recruit, move, like the tiebreakers and everything. So now we're just going to do the same thing across for recruit, and then move, and then battle, and then move on. So recruit warriors equal to cards in the column in a matching clearing with a roost. Ties, blah, 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 blah. We don't need to worry about that because we only have 1. And unfortunately, we do not have an orange mouse roost, which means all we're going to do is recruit twice for the bird column in our 1 roost that we have. We're going to move on. Move from the matching clearing you rule with the most Eyrie warriors to an adjacent clearing with no roost. If all of them have a roost, blah, 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 blah. So again, we do not have a clearing with any of our things, our pieces, that is a mouse clearing. So we're just going to go over to the bird clearing. Now, we need to leave warriors exactly to either rule the origin clearing or equal to the cards in the column, whichever is higher. We theoretically could leave our roost behind and still rule clearing 1. However, we have 2 cards in our bird column, which means our original 6 warriors are going to be the ones that are moving. The 2 we just placed down are going to fulfill the equal to the cards in the column rule. So we have a tie because we have 3 clearings that do not have roosts. Move to such a clearing with the fewest enemy pieces, then lowest priority. So this is one of the instances in the game where the bot is going to break the tiebreaker of using priority and actually go from bottom up to the lowest priority, which I think is really cool because they are the out of power old political system. So they're not going to just be as brash as some of the others. They're going to try some underhanded techniques to sneak back into power. So they're going to 10 instead of 5 or 9. Last up, battle in a matching clearing. So again, we're going to skip this new card we just put in the mouse column because we don't have any mouse clearings. We are going to, instead, for the bird column, which has 2 cards in it, so if it has the most cards, deal 1 extra hit. Bad news for that cat. He's guaranteed to die. However, let's roll to see if he does a hit back. He does. He takes out 1 of the birds, and the birds take out him. And that's that. So that's Daylight. That's the first step, Daylight. Build. Build a roost in a clearing you rule of highest priority with no roost. If you cannot place, you fall into turmoil. So we gained 1 clearing, but 1 clearing is all we need because you can only put down 1 a turn. Now, swoop is covering up evening. So before we score those victory points, we're going to place 2 warriors in the clearing of highest priority with no Eyrie pieces. So this is a very fancy, frustrating card. It's good for demonstrating how I place cards strategically around the board. However, this is a really frustrating card to play against because they're just going to keep popping up all over the board, places where they have no business being. So next turn, we'll be able to do some stuff with our mouse card, assuming we don't get ousted from that clearing. And last but not least, we're going to score victory points equal to what it says on the roost track. There we go. And we do not discard the order card because it becomes part of the decree. All right, last stop, Cat Town. Ooh, look at that, bird card. So first up, we'll reveal, do we craft? It's craftable, but not an item, so no. Now, normally we go to daylight, but it's a bird card, so we go to escalated daylight instead. So what we're going to do is first off, battle in each clearing. Defender is the player with the most pieces, and then the most points. So let's go in priority order. There's actually not that many to do, but in 2, we're going to maybe not the most strategic, but because the birds have the most pieces there, that's where we're battling, or that's who we're battling. So we are going to do 1 hit to them, and they're going to do 1 hit back. Hospitals, now if that had been 2 or more warriors, we would whisk them off to the keep, but it was only 1 warrior, so he gets around the hospital thing and unfortunately was not saved. Down here in 6, this one's easy because since we have a token there that's undefended, the warriors would add an extra hit and all that, but since it's just sympathy, it's going to be nice and easy, and they even get a point for it. And last but not least, human outrage. Now, removing sympathy, moving into and removing sympathy is like a huge part of being the alliance player. You want those things to happen. That only triggers if it's a human player who's doing those things. So because a bot just did it, doesn't matter. The alliance doesn't really care, or rather it doesn't get any benefit from it because it's just bot on bot fighting here. So no one's the wiser, I guess. All right, next up, recruit. 2 warriors in each of the lowest priority clearings that we rule. So again, one of the few times when we break the rule of high priority is good. So 12, we used to have 11, and we used to have 10. We still have 9. And then last up, challenging. Whenever you recruit, also place 2 warriors in the order clearing you rule of highest priority, which would be 3. There we go. And build. Building type. We have the most pieces on the map, and then there are tiebreakers, and Sawmill breaks tiebreakers whenever it is in the running. So we have 2 clearings with, well, 4 clearing cats here, but we already have the building slot filled. So 3 warriors in these clearings, but that's higher priority. So Sawmill goes down there. And last up, move all but 3 warriors from each clearing to the adjacent clearing with the most enemy pieces, then battle in each clearing you moved into. So this is an interesting rule, and because this is the last stop and I'm not continuing this game, I'm just going to demonstrate something here. Can I demonstrate it? I guess I could. Let's pretend these are gone for this demonstration. So in this case, we have 2 clearings where there are 3 warriors, which means it's just enough warriors that nobody's going to move. And then we have 2 clearings where we have 4, which leaves 1 warrior available to head out and do battle. The way this is worded, I fall prey to this just as often as I remind people, but Root is very literal. So if it says to do something, and then there's a period at the end of the statement, and then it says, then do this other thing, those are 2 different parts of the action. So by priority, we would move 1 here because no enemy pieces, 1. Then we would not battle here because the first step is just moving all the clearings, moving warriors from all clearings where it's applicable. So from clearing 6, we would also move 1 into here, which means now we would fight in 11, and now we get to do 2 hits to only their 1 because they don't have any items on their the battle track, so that we only lose 1 cat, but they get 2 of their items damaged. So that's a easily overlooked thing there, but that's not what happened. So we're just gonna put that back for the end of this turn. Last up for the cats, you're going to score victory points of rightmost empty space on the order building track, or if bird was the order card, which it was, you're going to score on the track that's going to get them the most points. And we discard the order card. So just like that, we've completed one round of Root with the 4 original ROOTbots. The score is Vagabot in the lead with 3, cats and birds with 2, and then Automated Alliance with 1. Yeah, hopefully this was helpful to show you both a setup and a little bit, again, of a gameplay example. I know that each of the videos had gameplay examples, but this had them all mashed together. And we're back. So hopefully that was helpful. I know that I talked about there are some parts where I need to look at the rulebook every time, like the priority markers, but setting up the bots has definitely become something that, at least for some of the factions, has become pretty second nature. But it's good for me to follow step by step on that too, because sometimes the order matters, or other times I just forget an entire step. So if you are someone who hasn't played with them as much as I have, then maybe it's even more helpful because you just need more reps. In any case, leave a comment down below if there's something about it that was helpful to you. I will be doing the other 4, so that I'll just be making a video of the Clockwork 2. That would be a weird matchup with just the moles as the militant faction, but we're gonna do it. Actually, I don't think that would technically meet Reach, but in theory, I've been told on the BGG forums that the bots don't really adhere to Reach. Personally, I think Reach is a construct that exists, so why wouldn't we use it for the bots as well as the human factions? But that's just me. Anyways, we will do one where I set up each of the Clockwork 2 factions and play through the first of their turns as well. Not sure when that'll happen. It'll happen when it happens. So in any case, thanks for taking a pause with Give Pause. Again, hopefully it was helpful, and we'll see you next time.